Hello, friends, and welcome to another edition of Driftin and Driftin. I'm your host, Reverend Billy C. Wirtz, and man, have I got a great show for you tonight. My guest is an extraordinary musician, a great entertainer, a sharp dresser, and just one of my favorite cats in the business in general. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Mitch Woods. It's great to have you here, brother. How are you?
I'm good. Great to see you, buddy.
Man.
And to hook up and connect.
I've been wanting to do this for quite a while. We've run the same roads, and we'll talk about that. But just a lot of stuff that I read in your little background is really interesting. And why don't we just take it all the way back and tell me where you started out, where you're from, and just a little bit about some of your your roots and beginnings.
Okay. Well, I'm born in Brooklyn in 1951. And so I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. What would be of interest to folks is how I got started playing piano. My mom was a single mom, and I was maybe between 6 and 8 years old or so. She would hire the superintendent of our building, who was African American, to take me to school and drive me to school. And one day we stopped off at his cousin's house or somebody's house, and there was somebody playing boogie woogie piano there in the basement. And that was it. I heard that. I said, I want to do that. And the great thing was, a little after that, my mom remarried my stepdad, Abe, and he went out and got us a piano. So that was really the beginning of the whole thing. And I started on classical music. I did like 3 years of learning classical, which was really great because I got to learn all the basics and how to read music. Not that I do much of that anymore, but got the basics down.
Sure.
Yeah. And then after a while, I was getting kind of bored with it. My dad said, my stepdad said, well, we got the piano, now you got to play, So I said, well, how about if I get a teacher who can teach me more jazz and pop music? So I found this great bebop guy, and he started me on learning to improvise scales and chords, and really got me beginning with all that. So that was really a formative time for me on there.
How old were you at this point?
I was 11 when I first started.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So would you say that you came from basically what would have been maybe a working class background?
Yeah. I mean, we were poor basically. We lived. It was sort of a tenement in Brooklyn, and my mom was trying to bring up me and my brother, 2 boys. So definitely working class for sure.
Is that working class ethic helped you later in life? I mean, a lot of the things when you come up at that, at that level, and stick to it, that kind of thing. I mean, you're talking 11 years old and you're already disciplined enough to be taking piano lessons. I mean, that's great.
Yeah, I'm sure, my family has a good work ethic, and I'm sure that I, caught that. The other thing that I was going to say, the piano teacher, he actually got me my very first gig when I was maybe by then, I guess maybe I was about 14 or 15, something like that. And he got me this gig playing piano in a piano store in the front window. So people would come by and go, hey, here's this young kid playing, And then I remember my first sort of groupie, the girls would come by and go, hey, Mitch, you sound great. So he instilled a little work ethic in me which was really good, that you can earn a living being a musician, which I have done my whole life until now.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So was there ever any other career aspirations along the way? Or, I mean, it sounds to me like you've been on the track since a pretty early age.
I was. I never had a day gig. I never had any interest in doing anything else.
Wow.
being a piano player, I think I was really fortunate to be able to make a living. And the other thing about being a piano player and a singer is I could fall back on playing solo, or I play with a band, depending on what the finances were. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So so I'd kind of, and I'm doing that right to this day. As a matter of fact, as everything went down the hole, I'm trying to get little solo gigs and all that stuff. You got.
Well, so that kind of tags into my next question. What's the name of a person that you would look at as having a real good influence in your life at an early age? Who was a person that helped you set the course? And you probably already mentioned this guy, but I'm curious to know.
I can't say there was, like I say, the piano teacher was really good. My stepdad, for getting me a piano. As a matter of fact, his name was Abe Rich. And had I changed my name, it would have been Mitch Rich. And I already have the band name Mitch Rich and the Millionaires, but I named my publishing company after him. It's called Mitch Rich Music in honor of my dad.
Great.
So,
cool.
I got to say he was really important in getting me going. The other thing that happened was, as I started playing around, other musicians would say, hey, you sound like Louis Jordan, or, all the boogie woogie guys, Mead Lux Lewis, Albert Ammons, Pete Johnson. So that encouraged me. Then I was like, wow, who are they? And I would, I went out and I bought all the records I could find and played them over and over and over again and tried to play along with them.
Yeah.
And, that pushed me along further into great boogie woogie,
Sure. You're one of the masters of what we call jump blues, of current in living and keeping, I guess what they call us, it's neo-traditionalist or whatever, but you keep the spirit and the feel alive. For those of the folks out there that don't know what jump blues are, tell us a little bit about what jump blues are, and maybe what's the difference between, say, jump blues and the very common form of like Chicago blues.
Yeah, well, jump blues, I think, evolved on the West Coast in California, and it really came from the migration of a lot of African Americans who moved out during the war, World War II, to work at the plants, the defense plants, and so they brought a lot of their music from Texas and Louisiana, really.
Right.
And also what happened was the big bands were disbanding because of World War II. They couldn't keep big bands anymore. So it became smaller units, like 5, 6, 7 pieces. And the guitar came in, of course, the electric guitar came in. And so to me, that is the era of music I love the most. And it's jump blues. It's really up tempo. It's really the predecessor to rock and roll. It's really just before that. And you'd have great sax, you'd have piano, maybe a guitar, maybe not, bass and drums, sometimes a couple of horns. And it was great dancing music, and really it emanated out of the West Coast. Some of the Roy Milton and the Solid Senders, Amos Milburn, Wynonie Harris, Roy Brown, all these guys, but I'm telling the audience. So
yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So go get those records, because those are the ones that we learned from, that I learned from. And Louis Jordan, of course, he was the master.
You told me you saw Louis Jordan?
I did.
Tell me, I got to hear that story, man. Come on.
It was the early 70s. And I had my band, which I could talk about after all, Mitch Woods and his Red Hot Mama. She was my girlfriend. She sang, and I was Mitch Woods, of course.
Right.
And we heard Louis Jordan was playing at this club in Oakland, a little club. I think it was Mother's Day, as a matter of fact. And we went there, and it was just, a funky small club. It was towards the end of his career, of course, but he was great. He was, jiving, and we got to talk to him at the end. I was just, the only thing I kicked myself, I was too embarrassed. You could have had your picture taken with Louis Jordan. he would come down with his sax and take a shot and a mug shot. And I just was too self-conscious to do that. But I got to meet him.
Wow.
And
wow.
yeah.
Wow.
Louis Jordan. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I was just going to say, you're hitting on all the, I mean, this is the, this is the story of my, exactly, right down to having to buy the records and not having the benefit that these kids today have of YouTube, where they could stop. We had to play those things backwards and over and over and over to get those lines,
That's right.
So how does the career develop? When did you start going out and touring with this?
Well, I went to University of Buffalo. I mean, we had bands in New York when we were teenagers and stuff like that. But then I went up to Buffalo, University of Buffalo, and there were a lot of musicians up in Buffalo. And a lot of well-known musicians came out of there, and they had these little jam sessions. So I started to go to the jam sessions, and that's when people, other musicians says, "Hey, you sound like the old Boogie Woogie guys," and I'm like, okay. And then I go out and find all the records I could find. And I heard these names: Meade Lux Lewis, Pete Johnson, Albert Ammons, Champion Jack Dupree was one of my early ones. And I started doing that. But then eventually we took the hippie VW van across country, across Canada. And it was me and my girlfriend. And we started hitting little coffee houses on the way. And she would play the rubboard and sing and harmonica, and I was playing piano, and we kind of worked our way out west that way until we got to, eventually to San Francisco.
Right.
And my brother was working for Bill Graham at the time, the promoter.
Wow.
Yeah,
sure.
Fillmore West and Winterland. And he said, "Yeah, you got to come out here. There's all this music." And I think we went out and came back a few times, but that first time came out, that was really started Mitch Woods and his Red Hot Mama.
Mm-hmm.
And we were doing I was doing a lot of Fats Waller, a more stride style piano.
Right.
And she would be singing Bessie Smith and Billie Holiday stuff. And, she was a great vamp character with a feather boa, we worked it up.
Mm-hmm.
So that was some of the beginning of it. It gradually evolved to, when I settled in the Bay Area, we worked with some of the best musicians around. A lot of the guys who played with Boz Scaggs and Elvin Bishop and, quite a few really, we had a great band. So we played all around.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So that was, there's a lot of history to go through. I'm trying to.
No, you're doing well. I noticed you lived a lot of different places. You spent some time in like the West Coast, Hawaii, New York, and then in New Orleans. How have these places influenced your playing, or have they influenced your playing at all?
Well, yeah. New Orleans is a whole separate issue in itself. I can lead you up to there,
Sure.
So basically we were in San Francisco, played around all the clubs, and then we got an offer to go to Hawaii. And I had never been to Hawaii. This friend of ours, I don't know if you knew David Paquette. He was a piano player from New Orleans, actually. Was playing. Yeah. David Paquette, yeah.
Yeah, it sounds real familiar. Yeah.
Great piano player. So we took over for him for a couple of weeks on Maui, a great old saloon piano. And getting to Hawaii, I couldn't believe there was such a place in the world coming from Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Like, this is like heaven, Sure. So I didn't come back for 3 years. I had my friend pack up everything. And I managed to play like 4 or 5 nights a week there. And I got an offer to play. They couldn't afford 2 of us. They could afford just one. So that was the end of the Red Hot Mama. She went back home. We weren't girlfriend and boyfriend anymore at that point.
As it goes, yeah.
So then I had to start singing because it was just me. So that was really the beginning. And that was towards the late 70s or mid 70s.
Okay.
eventually came back to San Francisco, and I ran into John Furman, who was sax player with David Bromberg Band.
Mm-hmm.
And we hit it off really well. And at that point, David Bromberg retired his whole band. And so I was able to get the whole David Bromberg Band. That was my first version of Mitch Woods and his Rocket 88s, actually. It was great. And Lance Dickerson on drums, who was also Commander Cody's drummer.
Yeah.
He was great, yeah. And he also played with Bromberg. So that was the beginning of the Rocket 88s. And, there's some great musicians everywhere, actually, is what I have learned.
Mm-hmm.
And there's always something to learn, and every city is a little bit different.
Sure.
So, we then started touring around the country from there, and we opened for Stevie Ray Vaughan 3 times here in the Bay Area, which was really great. And plus James Brown and Chuck Berry and, Neville Brothers, everybody.
You opened for James Brown?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah? How was that gig?
That was great. It was a club called the Saddle Rack in San Jose, which is like the Gillies of San Jose. It's the biggest country, but they were doing rhythm and blues on Mondays.
Okay.
And so they had us open for James Brown. And it was just great. I remember being backstage and I had a little funky camera. James came out after the show with his cape. And I was like, he's posing for me. And the damn camera wouldn't go off.
Oh, no.
I'll see you later. Bye.
Oh, man. But that was great. So you've opened for who were some of the people who were some of the really cool people or fun people that you opened for? You've had James now, and you said Stevie Ray, Chuck Berry.
Yeah. Well, I know you're going to ask, I don't know if we want to get to this right away. You're going to ask me my worst gig in the world.
That's okay. Yeah.
Are you ready for that?
Yeah.
Okay. So the worst gig I ever had was we opened for Chuck Berry at the Saddle Rack. Once again, it was like Gillies, country west, huge place.
Yeah.
So we did our show, and it's time for Chuck Berry. We were going to be his backup band, right? No, he doesn't show. Chuck Berry does. The promoter's freaking out. Chuck Berry's a no-show. There's a full house, and there's a line out the door for the second show. So without saying anything, we're backstage. He goes, well, looks like Chuck's not going to make it, but Mitch Woods and the Rocket 88s are going to come on now. And he shoves us out on stage. That was pretty rough. The thing with the chicken wire, that's when I wish like the chicken wire.
Yeah, no kidding. Ouch.
They were not happy campers. But, we did our show, and eventually they came onto our side. So it was really trial by fire.
Right. So as long as we're on it, what's the flip side of the coin? Tell me about a gig that you sat there and you went, oh my God, I'm just a guy from Brooklyn and here I am. Wow. Well,
it's really about a whole project, and, there was a show involved with it, but, one of the CDs I've done, it was called Big Easy Boogie.
Right.
We didn't get to talking about New Orleans yet. So we're
that's fine. That's where we were headed to. So that's fine. Okay. Yeah, that's great. Go ahead.
So I spent a lot of time in New Orleans. It's really become my second home. Mm-hmm. And, for a while I was working around there, and I was hiring a lot of Fats Domino's sidemen because, when Fats not working, they want to work. So I got friendly with Irvin Charles, his bassist was great. Reggie Houston on sax. And, eventually I started writing songs in the old Fats Domino style. I had a whole list, repertoire of those tunes that I'd written.
Right.
And I thought, well, what would be the best band in the world to play that? Well, it'd be the Fats Domino Band. So God was with me on this one. I was able to put together a recording session. I'm jumping around a little bit here.
That's
so
okay. No, that's fine.
bear with me. Anyway, I got to be good friends with Herb Hardesty, who was Fats Domino's sax player since the very beginning. And he started to introduce me to some of the other players. And, I said, well, I want to do this recording. And I was able to pull together a lot of the original players from Fats Domino to record. It's called the Big Easy Boogie. And we got Earl Palmer on drums, who was the most recorded drummer in the world, really. He was Fats's original drummer. He was Little Richard's drummer.
That was question number 6 was, have you ever met Earl Palmer?
Oh, okay.
Oh my God, you played with him?
Yeah.
Was it as magical as you would think it would have been?
Yes, Earl was a master, what I mean? And what a great guy, what a sweet guy. That was the other thing. What happened was I got in the studio with all these guys, and that was, like you said, I was like, wow, what did I do now? Here I am, this little guy from Brooklyn. These are the masters. And so I had Earl Palmer on drums. And they also kept saying, you got to get Dave Bartholomew to help produce. So for those who don't know, Dave was Fats Domino's producer and co-writer of all the big hits he had, and really important figure in music. He just passed away about a year ago at 100 years old. So Dave was reluctant at first, but finally he came to the session. And, he stayed on the background, but little by little, he would get closer and closer in. And before I knew it, he's right on my ass, this is all, you can find it on YouTube. I videotaped the whole thing, and I did a CD and a DVD called The Big Easy Boogie, which is available on my website, mitchwoods.com. And there's a great moment where, Dave is telling me how to sing, and he's right in my face at the piano. And he's going, open your mouth, boy, open your mouth. Oh, like that, And it was perfect. That's just what I wanted,
Yeah, yeah.
And here I got Dave Bartholomew helping produce. I got Earl Palmer on drums, Herb Hardesty on sax, and all the rest of the guys too. They were all amazing. So I have to say, that was probably the penultimate moment of my career. And the other great thing is we all became friends, dear friends after that. Earl Palmer, we hung out quite a bit, and then until he passed away, and then also with Herb. I saw him just before he passed away.
For those of you,
yeah,
I was just going to say, for those of you all watching this interview, the people he's talking about are the people without whom there would not be rock and roll. Okay, these are the architects of rock and roll. I mean, we could sit here for the next 20 minutes, the next 2 hours, and list all this stuff. But more than just the listing, it's the whole sound and style that, I mean, it just blows me away. These guys are the bedrock of everything that we, has come on since then. I'm just, wow, that must have been so beyond cool. Wow.
It'll be for the rest of my life. It was an incredible honor to have that happen. And, they were the founding fathers of rock and roll. So it wasn't just Fats Domino. They backed up Little Richard. They backed up Ray Charles. They, keep Roy Brown. Anybody who came into the studio, Cosimo's studio in New Orleans, that was the band, basically. And for me to be able to go back in time and play with these guys, it was my ultimate dream, and it came true.
Oh, man.
And it's on The Big Easy Boogie is the name of the CD and DVD, so you can see all the video of some of the great stuff that went down.
So out of all those guys that you ran across, all those cats in New Orleans, who was the one that just like you stood in awe of his or her just sheer genius? Booker, maybe?
Yeah, I would say James Booker. That was another story. You're getting me rolling here.
Good, man. That's what we're here for.
When I very first came to New Orleans, it was like 1981, and people have been telling me, "Oh, you got to go to Jazz Fest. It's incredible." And my first wife was from Houston, and she says, "Well, let's go to Houston and visit my folks." I was like, "I don't really want to go to Texas. You know, no offense to you Texans."
Yeah, yeah, that's okay. Yeah, yeah.
She said, "Well, we'll go to New Orleans, you know, after." I said, "Okay, that's a deal." Anyway, she didn't realize she created this monster. So I didn't. Once I got there, it was like, this is my town, you know. It's a piano.
Yeah.
So really, that first year I got there, I went into the Maple Leaf. You've probably been to the Maple Leaf, I'm sure.
Yeah.
One of the classic bars in New Orleans, and James Booker used to play there every Monday night. Anyways, I sat in, and the owner, John Parsons at the time, he said, "Come back Monday night. You can open for Booker." And I didn't even know who he was actually at that point. So I came back, played my piano. It was all good. Everybody liked it. And then Booker came on, and I was like, "Oh my God, this guy's." Yeah. So he was quite a mad genius, but a genius. There was no talking to him. I tried to talk to him. That was not possible.
Yeah.
But, you know, for those folks who don't know, he influenced Dr. John so much, and Alan Toussaint, and so many piano players. He's beyond me. I can't really play Booker. I'll tell you that off the bat. But he could play anything from Rachmaninoff to jazz to blues. He would go back and forth, you know, stream of consciousness.
Right. Cyril Neville told me that he would come over to the house at like 3 a.m, and he loved playing the theme from The Godfather. He was hung up with that, and he would play that with 2 fingers of this hand. Then he would play another melody with the other fingers, and he'd be talking the whole time. And he said, "I'm trying to figure out which one of these he wants me to play with," you know. So at any rate, you and I ran into each other. I think the first time was in Baltimore at the 8x10. I opened for you guys, and over the years we've crossed paths. The main place is the Blues Cruise. Why don't you tell me about how you and Roger has told me the story of how you guys first met up at was it a bus stop or something like that?
He just told me. I didn't remember that. That was, yeah, I guess it was at the streetcar in New Orleans outside the Camellia Grill. So I don't know, I'm sure we were many daiquiris to the wind,
Right.
But, I used to work for him at the Grand Emporium. We did come through there a few times on some of my very first tours. So I knew Roger.
Right.
And there's a lot of people I've met in New Orleans that I'm not sure we all remember what happened. A friend of mine was talking to me. He said, "Oh man, you got to check out this Blues Cruise. It'll be right up your alley." So I took a look online and everything, and I contacted Roger and I said, "I'm interested in coming on." He says, "Well, why don't you come on as a special guest?" The very first time, and I think it was 2002. I said, "Come on as a special guest. Just do whatever you want to do." So I got on board, and I see there's pianos all over the place, as you know, but there was a piano bar, and so I just jumped in there. I started playing one night, and pretty soon people started coming in, and it got later and later and later. About 4 a.m, I said, I'm going to bed. I've had enough, So I go to my room. And the phone rings. A little later, I get a call. It says, "Mitch, get your ass down here. We got a full house in the piano bar." So come on down. And I come down in my pajamas. So that was the beginning of all that.
Right.
And somebody had handwritten a little sign on the door. It said Mitch Woods Club 88. And really, so that was the very beginning of the piano bar. I basically founded the piano bar on the Blues Cruise. And, so I started playing in there every night. It got bigger and bigger, and everybody would come and sit in. Back in the early days, there was not such a big pro jam on the back. I don't even think they had any of that. And so everybody would come and sit in with me at the piano.
Right.
So it was amazing. I'd have everybody from Taj to James Cotton to Hubert Sumlin to, Shamika Copeland. Everybody's been through there. It's been wonderful. And, it just became my room, and I would have, I always have an open door policy. It's like anybody can sit in.
Right.
Sometimes that was good. Sometimes that was bad.
Oh, well, yeah, it's the cruise. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Cruise. So, eventually you get the hook after, the 30th harmonica player comes in there.
Right,
okay.
right.
But there've been some really magical moments in there. And so that was the beginning of Mitch Woods Club 88. And and now, as there's two pianos. We have dueling pianos. You and I have done it together. And I've done it with everybody else, Dave Keys, Barry Kuda, you name it. We've done it in there, Rob Rio. Mm-hmm. Always a ball. But in the past, it was just me. And we would go till, I'd go to dawn. I would start at 1 a.m, basically start.
Right.
And I'll tell you a really funny story that I always like to talk about. So one night we're in there and it's dawn. We were playing all night. People
right.
Toasted, right?
Right, right.
The blues cruise.
Sure.
So it could be the blues cruise.
Yeah.
And people are wasted, and the lights starting to come in and, everybody goes, oh, let's close the curtains so, can't see the light. And all of a sudden, we're rocking and roll. All of a sudden, the front door opens up and this crew of straight-laced people start walking in. And we're looking at them and they're looking at us. And go, what the heck? It was the AA meeting they had scheduled in the piano bar for that morning. So that was quite a moment. They looked at us there. Now we know why we don't drink anymore.
Well, and I can actually tag that because I'm not, let's just say, in keeping with traditions, I'm not unfamiliar with that organization myself. But there's an inside term if people are asking, they'll say, are you a friend of Bill, as in Bill Wilson's, the guy who founded it. That's our secret little, or their secret little code. At any rate, and on the schedule, it would say Friends of Bill W.
Friends of Bill W.
Well, one of my fans thought it was a Reverend Billy prayer meeting. And of course, he busts in with a bottle of tequila going, Reverend Billy, heal me. And they went, well, maybe you're in the right place after all, But that's the thing about the cruise is that it is, there is that wonderful, this is the whole reason that we do this music, for me and I think for you as well. And I would be hard pressed to find a gig that I love any more than that. Just the whole vibe of that piano bar that you set up, and the way it's very up close and personal, and people, you interact with the crowd. And those people, how it is. They're there. If you start at 9, they're there at 7 o'clock. Seats.
Yeah. They love it. People, it's become one of the best venues on the cruise, and people, you always want to go into the piano bar because you never know what's going to happen there.
Yeah, yeah. And you brought some great players.
They're great players. Oh, yes. Some incredible playing goes on in there. We used to have Tab at the beginning, would come down, Tab Benoit's playing on spoons and bus trays and stuff. We didn't even have a little drum kit in there or anything.
Right.
I had one night, and this is also on YouTube. If people go to my YouTube channel, Mitch Woods, you'll find it. Mm-hmm. A whole series about the piano bar in Club 88. Somebody came in with an Alphorn. Literally an Alphorn, from Switzerland, those 10-foot long Ricola.
The Ricola.
Yeah.
Right.
How?
Yeah, right.
And stretched it across the piano. How they even got it on the ship is beyond me. I don't know. But these are the magical moments on the blues cruise that make it, like you say, the best gig in the world. And it's just we all live for it for sure.
Can you remember? Can you remember in specific? I know you've done a lot of the jams too. Can you remember one of your better pro-am jam, or one of the pro jams when you were on stage and looked around and you went, "My goodness, this is," I mean, with some of the guys you were up there with? Because I've seen you up there with some pretty heavy duty cats.
Yeah, I would say that. One thing that sticks out in my mind was I was up there with, it was Tommy Castro, Joe Bonamassa, and oh God, I'm losing it now. Another loud, great guitarist.
Right. That's okay. Yeah. I got you.
It'll come to me. And they had these stacks of Marshalls behind me, and I'm at the piano, and I just remember my head going like sideways from how loud it was. So that was quite a moment.
So let me ask you, what do you do when you're not playing the piano? What do you do when you're not doing music? What do you do to get away from it? Do you have hobbies? Do you have what do you do for extracurricular activities?
Well, during these COVID times, I got a bike. I was very fortunate to get a really good, it's a hybrid mountain bike, regular bike, just before it hit. So literally, I've been out riding my bike almost every day, and I live in the, Bay Area, and their Sausalito is beautiful. I was just out today, actually, and I ride, sitting on the dock of the bay and riding around there. So I really like that. And I also, I decided I would get a wetsuit. I love being in the water. I love swimming.
Yeah.
And I was just getting so frustrated. I can't get in the water here. It's so cold in Northern California. I said, I'm buying a wetsuit. So I've been boogie boarding. That's my other thing I like to do.
Excellent. That sounds like a whole lot of fun. Wow.
That's been fun. So it's been keeping me in shape. I've stayed svelte during the.
Good. Yeah, I haven't. So yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, most people haven't.
What do you like to? Do you read a lot? Are you a big reader?
I read, but I wouldn't say a lot. Another thing that I've been doing, and this is also started during the COVID times. I've been traveling the world for 30, 40 years, whatever it is. And I've been videotaping all the time. I've been taking all these great videos. So I looked in my closet, and I had 100 videos sitting in there. And I decided I would digitize them this year. And so I've been learning how to edit and, just very basic editing. And editing all those videos, and I've been putting them up on Facebook, and some of the fans out there have watched it, and because there's some really fun moments. I do one thing I call the Boogie Woogie Traveler, where I'm not just playing but eating and drinking at all these cool places around the world that we as musicians get to do.
Sure.
And then I've been finding, I've got another bunch of episodes called From the Vaults, some great performances around the world, different festivals, for Umbria Jazz Festival in Italy, Notoden, a lot of the festivals in Jazz at Vienne in France, and these incredible places. And I just did one that I'm going to put up shortly that you will really like. I call it At the Hands of the Masters. And I found video of me playing with Jay McShann, Johnny Johnson, Pinetop Perkins, and Hatta Brooks. All of these iconic, great piano players.
Hatta Brooks?
Hatta Brooks. Yeah. It's classic. You're gonna love it.
Oh, she was a great singer and piano player. I mean, again, one of these people that's a legend in our world, and I mean, just the fact that you even crossed paths with her was pretty amazing,
Yeah, most people now don't know her, but she was the queen of the boogie back in the 40s.
Oh yeah. She was right up there with Camille Howard and some of those. Yeah. Wow, God, this is great.
Yeah,
I've only asked about 3 of the questions I was planning, but I could just let you had some. Which one of your favorite places to play in the world?
Well, I I have to, I would say Europe, any of the countries in Europe.
Yeah.
The reception is so good, and they treat you so well. I really miss being in Europe now. I was hoping that by June things would clear up, and I was going to be at a Ascona Jazz Festival in Switzerland, and Umbria Jazz in Italy, and a bunch of other ones. So yeah, I do like playing in Europe. I mean, I would say festivals, just because it's always a great venue. The audience comes there for the music. They're real fans, and they're out there to support you, and you're in a great situation with great sound, good piano. So I would have to say that. Yeah.
Wow, that's great. What you've been doing this a long time. You've done well. I know this is kind of a weird question, but what's been different than you thought it was going to be about all of this? You sort of have an idea of how it's going to go, and and then it's sort of the same, but it's not. There's things that you didn't expect. For instance, you were telling me the other day about how we've all had a little problem with depression and motivation here this past year, writing and staying, because we're used to going out, you play the gig, you come home, you go out, you play the gig, you make your money. We have that rhythm. And then all of a sudden it was gone, and there were these huge spaces, and man, it was like, so I don't know. How have you been able to stay moving forward by doing this video and that kind of thing?
Yeah, well, interesting you bring that up, because I feel like I'm going through a second phase. At the beginning, when, the pandemic hit, everything stopped. I mean, us as musicians, we've spent our whole lives building up a career and a lifestyle. This is our lives. It's not a little day, a side gig that we do.
Sure.
And it stopped within 2 days. That was the ultimate insult and shock. We're not the only ones. I'm not saying, feel sorry for me or this or that, but just that's what it is. And so that was a rough spot to get through. And what I came to was, I'm just going to do the things I can do. And what I can do was some of the virtual shows. I've been doing Club 88 from here at my piano,
right.
Every couple of weeks spontaneously. And that's been fun, and people, we feel like we have an audience, because they'll text you and you could talk back to the audience. So that's been kind of cool. And then the video editing, getting into that, and then riding my bike. So, all those things. And then little gigs here and there. I can do little solo gigs. Some of the clubs, have had me play some piano, solo gigs here and there.
Sure.
Right now, I'm just kind of beating the bushes to get things going now that things are starting to open up, because I so want to play so bad. And now I'm through the second phase of like, all right, enough is enough. I got through a year, I don't know how much more of this I can do,
Tell the folks one more time where they can find your stuff.
My website, mitchwoods.com, is a really great website, and it'll hook you up to my YouTube channel as well. And we've got our store there, so you can get all my CDs,
right?
And all the information there. Also Facebook, just look for me on Facebook, Mitch Woods. You'll find me with my red suit and the Cadillac. You'll see me there. So I'm doing a lot there, and Instagram. Social media has been a good tool to keep me in touch with my fans and friends.
Sure. Sure.
So I'm taking advantage of that as much as possible. I do have a gig coming up, which you're going to be on, as a matter of fact. Pennsylvania.
Yes.
Billtown Blues.
Yeah. You're on that one too, same day?
I'm on the Sunday. I think you might be.
Okay, I'm on Saturday. Yeah.
on Saturday.
Yeah.
You gonna be hanging around, or do you know?
I might. I'm not sure. Or no,
Okay.
I got to play with the night. Well, I got to play with the Nighthawks, but I'll see. I'm not sure. I've got to play with them before that. So, but we'll try and cross paths in there somewhere. So listen,
Yeah.
I told you I was going to ask you this question at the end of the ride when you're sitting there on the porch, looking out over the bay or whatever. What are you going to look back on as something that you feel might have been one of your best accomplishments through this whole thing? What are you proudest of that you've done?
Well, I mean, in general, I'm proud that I've been able to lead a band for years and years. You know, although the band shifts, I have musicians in the city that I work with, which is also a great pleasure. And make a living as a musician, you know, for my whole life. But I will have to go back to the Big Easy Boogie, you know, which I told you about, working with the Fats Domino band and recording with them and becoming friends with everybody. That was quite a highlight. Oh, another highlight, which we didn't talk about, was Friends Along the Way. To my, not the last album, but the one before, I was able to do duets with all my contemporaries. So duets and trios with Van Morrison, Taj Mahal, Elvin Bishop, Marcia Ball, Ruthie Foster, Maria Muldaur, Cyril Neville, John Hammond, Joe Louis Walker. Hope I didn't leave anybody out there.
all the minor league players. Good God. Yeah. So how was okay, I got to ask you, just player to player, how was Van Morrison to work with?
Van was incredible. So we are actually, it's called Friends Along the Way because I am really friends with everybody that's on this album.
Wow, that's
and
great.
Van and I have known each other for 40 years, although we never worked together. And what happened was he was playing the New Orleans Jazz Fest, and I was living in New Orleans at that time.
Right.
So I said, and I never asked him for anything. I said, you know, I'm doing this album. Would you be interested? And he said, yes. And I was like,
oh man.
Okay. Here's another fine mess I've gotten myself into. And so anyway, so Taj was also playing the next day, and Taj and I have been friends for a long time.
Yeah.
And I said, well, how about we get Taj? And everybody was like, yeah, boom. So we all got in the studio. It was just me, Taj, and Van. The whole album, there's no band. It's all very intimate.
Mm-hmm.
And when we got there, we were going to do one song, and Van started to get inspired. You know, we played at this studio. It was an old church. It's called Esplanade Studios, beautiful studio in New Orleans. And he started to get inspired, and pretty soon we did 3 songs, actually. So he was incredible to work with, really wonderful. And, you know, if he respects you and you have a relationship, it's a whole different thing.
Wow, that's great, man. This has been a great interview. Thank you so much for all the cool stories and, you know, taking the time to talk with me, man. I really appreciate it. You got anything else you want to, we're going to kind of wrap it up here, but you got anything else you want to add? Floor is yours.
I just, as long as we're on this subject, I do want to let everybody know that I'm going to be putting out a deluxe edition of Friends Along the Way that we're talking about. There were 5 more cuts that I hadn't released yet. From all those artists as well.
Right.
So that'll be my next release that'll be coming out. So keep an eye out for that.
Okay.
Friends Along the Way deluxe edition.
All right. Cool.
Other than that, I'm looking forward to seeing you on the Blues Cruise. I'm praying we're going to be out in October.
Amen.
And just my love to all the cruisers and all our friends out there. I miss you like you would not believe. Really.
Absolutely. You want to play a little something? Take us out?
Sure, I could do that. That. Let me take these guys off here. We'll do a little boogie woogie, right? it. Don't break it.
Great, man. Thank you so much, Mitch. I appreciate it. This is Reverend Billy saying thank you all so very much for tuning us in. Don't forget to check out our podcast, which will be coming up after this. And you can check out some of Mitch's tunes and some of these great jump blues artists we were talking about. You can pick that up on iTunes. And once again, Mitch, thank you so very, very much.
My pleasure, man. It was a ball. Thank you.
We'll see you soon. Thank you all. Good night, everybody.